So this happened when I was in 7th grade, as a 12-year-old. At the time, it was just my mom, my brother, and I, living in a rental in a rundown low-income area. We moved in during the summer, before the school year started, and we were welcomed by our next-door neighbors. It wasn't too uncommon, but not super common at the same time, at least for that area in Oregon. My mom worked 8 to 5 p.m. every day, so my little brother and I would ride the bus home every day from school. My cousin would also sometimes ride back to my house with us, and her parents would pick her up later. It's important for a later part of the story. One day, when I came home, I noticed our only small laptop we owned was gone off the counter. I figured my mom might have moved it, but later when my mom came home, we determined that it was missing, and that a lot of other things were missing too, like my iPod and wallet, and my mom's safe with her handgun in it. Lots of family valuables too. We called the cops and reported a robbery, and they came to investigate. They determined that the person probably slid through the doggy door leading into the garage, and then entered the house through our unlocked garage door. Cops stayed in their cars on the curb all night, and said they would stay on watch for our house more than normal. I was terrified all night, and my brother and I slept in my mom's room. The next day, we locked all our doors. It was Wednesday, and was a random half day at my school, so I rode the bus home around noon. My cousin came with, while my brother went to a friend's house for the afternoon to hang out. I used the key under the mat that my mom leaves for me, and my cousin and I hung out for about an hour or two, until her mom came and picked her up. After she left, I hear the doorknob of the closet right next to the front door slowly opening, and out comes this skinny, what looked like a 35-year-old man that I recognized as our next-door neighbor. He seemed to be constantly shaking, intense eyes, and had a really unhealthy look to him because of his extremely sunken-in face. Terrified, I'm in the living room just standing looking at him, while he looks at me with a surprised look on his face. His face changed to an amused smirk when I believe he realized that I was alone in the house. He begins to walk towards me, while I stand there shocked, not really sure what to do. He grabs me really hard on the shoulders and tells me I'm pretty. He begins to pull me into him, to lick me. I don't know, he seemed crazy and excitable with his tense eyes. I instinctively jump and buckle my knees to allow my full weight to be the force that rips me from his grip, and I fall on my butt. He then bends down to grab me, when I heel kick him in his nuts as hard as I can. He yells and falls to his knees, cupping himself, and I use that time to run past him to my front door. I open it, and run to a kid I rode the bus with's house, about 6 houses down. He and his mom were there, and she called the cops and my mom while I waited. The cops got to the house and he wasn't there, but had managed to steal a few more small valuables. I gave my testimony that it was our next-door neighbor, and he was later caught that same day trying to sell some of our stuff at the pawn shop downtown. He ended up being a crystal meth addict, selling our stuff to sell and pay for his addiction. He was super weak from all the drug abuse, which is probably why I was able to get away from him. He also was apparently somewhat high, which he claimed heightened him sexually, which is why he spontaneously decided to attack me, being that I was alone. He had apparently watched us for a few months, learning our schedules for when we left and got home. He took the time to take the key from under the front door mat while we were gone, get a copy, and then put the original back under the mat for my brother and I to use when we got home. The cops were surprised he was smart enough to do all that, as he seemed to be mostly dim-witted with everything else due to drug abuse. Either way, I testified against his physical attack, and he got a few decades of jail time, being that he was already on parole for drugs. I was terrified, and slept in my mom's room for the next year. This happened about 2 years ago, when I was 22. After work, I stopped at a local convenience store to buy some beer. The cashier looked familiar, but it's a very small town, population of 6,000. He acted odd. I asked how he was doing to try and make small talk, and he just stared at me. I instantly felt uncomfortable, so I only glanced at him a few times before I left. I arrived home 10 minutes later and decided I wanted to browse Facebook. I had a friend request. The guy looked sort of familiar. He was a local too, so I decided to accept him. A few hours later, I realized it was the same cashier. He'd gotten my name off of my ID and added me not even 5 minutes after I left the store. I told my boyfriend about it and we both agreed it was pretty weird. A few days later, he came in to my work. I asked my boss, and she'd never seen him in there before. He grabbed milk and tried to initiate some small talk with me. I felt uncomfortable, and he asked me if I remembered him, told me his name, and that we'd been good friends in high school. I had never seen him before, and we'd never said 2 words to each other. I was trying to be polite, so I told him yes, I remembered. After a few minutes, my boss pulled me into the office. She was watching through the window and could tell I was uncomfortable. It was a small pharmacy, and all of us working there were pretty close. After that, he started coming in every few days. If I wasn't there, he'd ask for me specifically. After a few weeks, my boss would pull me into the office whenever he'd walk in. All the managers were briefed and did the same. And that was all they could do until something happened. Then he stopped coming in. We didn't see him for a few weeks. I was relieved and went about my business as usual. I was allowed to carry my cell phone on the floor. My mom was very sick, so if she needed anything, the managers were fine with her calling me. Shortly after, though, I got a text from a random number. I asked them who it was, and they replied, "You don't remember? You gave me this number. It's me, George." My heart started pounding. I sent a polite, short message back. After work, I checked to see if my phone number was anywhere on Facebook. It wasn't. George started messaging me daily, calling me sexy or babe. I was freaked out, to say the least. My boyfriend was working out of town with limited cell reception, so I couldn't let him know what was going on. A few days later, I got a message from an old classmate I still talk to every once in a while. "Hey, did George ever get a hold of you? He said there was an emergency and needed to contact you. Is everything alright?" I broke down crying, finally acknowledging that yes, this guy was stalking me. I didn't know if he was violent, and he knew where I worked, so I sent him something like, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know that I have a boyfriend. I didn't want there to be a misunderstanding between us." And that's when shit got bad. He called me a liar, a stupid whore, telling me he doesn't know why my ugly ass would even think he was interested in me, that no man would be interested in my nasty pussy. I asked him to leave me alone, and the insults just got worse. I shut off my phone and cried, and I tried to ignore him. A few hours later, after calming down, I turned it back on and hesitantly checked. The last message he sent read, "You fucking cunt. I know where you work. I know where your house is. I could fucking kill you in your sleep and you wouldn't see it coming. Try to call the cops on me. I'm in New York right now. Do it, bitch. They can't protect you." I called a friend and explained. I showed her the texts. She took me down to the police station where I showed them the text too. I was shaking, and I found the report and later got a restraining order against him. Turns out he already had 2 other restraining orders from girls he'd done this to as well. My boyfriend came back a week later. I told him what happened and had to stop him from hunting that sick fuck down. Last year, he tried getting my number from a friend over Facebook. She blocked him. I haven't seen or heard from him since, thankfully. There have been a few times in my life that I've been very scared. You hear about shit like this on the news or in documentaries, but never think it could happen to you. I slept with the light on for months after that. So this is a story that happened to my mom's friend in Korea about 10 years ago. Every time I hear this story, I get the chills. My mom's friend lived in an apartment complex in Seoul. She was a stay-at-home mother with a young daughter, and her husband worked during the days. One day, she was coming home from running errands with her daughter and got onto the elevator in her building. When she got on, though, she noticed that there was a man wearing a cap and a yellow raincoat, and he kept his head low so she couldn't really see his face. She immediately felt really uneasy, and she made her daughter stand to her side, furthest away from the man. What made her feel even more uncomfortable was that when she pressed the button for her floor, there was no other lit number. On top of that, she noticed that he was carrying something wrapped inside newspaper, close to his side. Things started to click in my mom's friend's head, and she started to panic, and decided to take out her cell phone and pretend like she was calling home to her husband, who was obviously really not home and at work. She started saying things like, "Oh, I'm on the elevator and about to get off. Can you get the door for me?" and making it seem like her husband was waiting for her. When the elevator did finally reach her floor, I think she lived on like the 12th floor or something, she quickly got off and grabbed her daughter and started to walk as fast as she could to her apartment. She noticed that the man had also gotten off on her floor and was slowly following her down the hallway. When my mom's friend got to her door, she started to bang on it and shout, "Hey, I'm home. Please open the door," and kind of pretended like he was coming to answer the door. Upon seeing this, the man in the yellow raincoat started to walk away back towards the elevator. When he seemed to be far away enough, my mom's friend quickly picked up her daughter and slid open her door's passcode thing. Usually this is how people get into their homes in Korea, and started to frantically punch in her key code. The problem was that the buttons would make sounds, so the man knew that no one was going to answer the door for her, and he turned around and started to run back at her. My mom's friend at this point was practically screaming, and when she finally got the door to open, the first thing she did was throw her daughter in through the door. When she got in herself, she saw that the man was inches away, but she managed to shut it and lock it before he could wedge his hand or weapon into the door. Afterwards, looking through the door's peephole, she saw that the man was skulking away back towards the elevator. Several months later, my mom's friend was watching the news, and there was a coverage on the capture of a serial killer named Yoo Young-chul, who used to kill a lot of prostitutes. She told my mom that she could never forget the dread she felt when she saw the familiar yellow raincoat and hat that he was wearing when he was apprehended. June. My partner Johnny comes upstairs and finds it cute how I'm checking him out on OkCupid. I'm confused as I haven't logged in lately, like in months. How could I have been looking at his account? I log in and check it out, and there's a list of 7 or so people that have been checked out from my account today, Johnny's included, and also someone I work with. Well, that's embarrassing. It wasn't me though. Time to change my password. The next day at work, I was sure to bring it up and laugh about the fact that my OkCupid account was hacked to the person that was viewed in my list. I didn't want this person actually thinking that I was looking at his account. We work too closely together, and I get the impression he may see me as more than his boss. It always pleased him that his luggage tags printed his middle name and first initial as Chris T. And this is not the type of person who should see his name written out like he's God's gift to Earth. I'll refer to him as Chris. Chris just laughed off the OkCupid hacking comment I made. I found it strange that he had no questions or comments on the subject. Most people would at least ask if you changed your password, but nothing from Chris. I brushed it off, though. A few days later, I was out of the office for work. Johnny messages me saying it happened again, that I checked him out on OkCupid. No, I didn't, but I changed my password again to be safe. July. It's a weekend. I'm having a lazy morning in bed with Johnny. I get a Facebook notification. Your account has been logged into from a new location. The IP address points to Chris's hometown. My heart's racing. What the fuck is going on? I take care of the Facebook password and screenshot the notification. Later that night, I get a text from Chris. Happy 4th, boss. I assume he's drunk and worried about being caught having his access to my Facebook revoked so quickly. No, it can't be him doing this. It's just a coincidence, right? Johnny is convinced it's Chris. That means someone I work with on a very small team is targeting me. This will make work nearly impossible. I can't talk to anyone at work about this. I'll have no way to run my department. The situation will get minimized. Chris drank a lot. I'd seen it at work events or when we traveled just the two of us. He often got out of hand, but everyone brushed it off. He's young. It was funny. We've all had those nights, but as long as you show up to work the next day, it's fine. I brought it up to him once. Hey Chris, you need to be more cautious about how much you drink at work events. He didn't speak to me for 3 days. I offended him, told him that he's not allowed to have fun at work events. He told me when he finally snapped at me. I recoiled. He's 3 times my size and we're in a secluded space at work. One time while traveling with just the two of us, I got very sick. I told him I couldn't make it out for dinner, so Chris offered to pick up something from a nearby store. He knocked on my room door and handed me the water he got me. He tried to make small talk as I thanked him and indicated I was going to lay down. It was apparent by a stance at my hotel room doorway that he wanted to come in. He inched closer, and I said goodnight, shut my door, and locked every lock that I could. And that wasn't the only time he made me feel uncomfortable. I hadn't noticed any other accounts being hacked for a while. I was cautious around Chris, even dissociated when I could. I avoided work outings if he was going, would back out of lunch plans that he decided to go to once he knew I was going, but we often had to work very closely. We were a team after all, and I couldn't do my job without him, and him without me. November. Johnny was online checking out his FetLife account one evening. He saw that I was also online via the old messenger they used to have. Johnny asked me if I'm logged in. I'm not. Again, my heart's racing. It's different this time, though. The violations are beginning to feel commonplace, normal, expected. But this hacking is extreme. No one outside of my FetLife friends knows about this account. Definitely no one I work with. And there's some faceless nude photos of me there. I reached out to FetLife. They gave me the IP address of the last login. It's the same as the Facebook hack. Shit. I can't avoid this anymore. I can't pretend it's just coincidences. But I need proof that it's Chris. All I have is an IP address and intuition. I can't take that to HR. The police, maybe? Will they help, or will it make matters worse if they need to contact my employer? I start looking into the login history of any account that tracks it. My bank account. Why is there an iPhone logging onto it daily? I don't have an iPhone, but Chris does. This is real. This is happening, and I don't know what to do. I'll call the bank while I'm at work and ask them about the unknown log. Chris is at his desk right next to mine. The conversation is easily overheard. I hang up with the bank and they say they can't help. Chris didn't say a thing. Under normal conditions, he would inquire, "Wow, is everything okay? Did you change your password? Did any money go missing?" Nothing from him this time, though. So out of character, he's always interested in my personal life. The next weekend, I wake up to a phone call. The caller is calling from my phone number. My heart skips a beat, but I answer. No one responds. I just hear heavy breathing. That's it. I'm losing my sanity. I spent weeks, months researching IP addresses and how I might be able to use the only info I have. I've lost sleep and can't focus at work. Johnny is worried about me and my safety, and I am too. But what can I do? Johnny suggests we go to the police. I don't want to, but I'm at a dead end, so I agree. The officer is kinder and more receptive to my situation than I expected. This serves as a reminder to me that this is a big deal. I shouldn't minimize it in my own thoughts. She takes the report, every detail. They use the IP to subpoena the ISP. Weeks go by, but the officer on my case claims there's no crime, and the ISP records were never obtained. December. My work email keeps doing this strange thing. My messages I've read keep being marked as unread. Weird. Is it him, or just the multiple devices I use to check on it? I don't know. I can't tell. The server doesn't keep a login history. Not that I can see. I wonder if I should talk to IT. They'll help, but that would make the situation real and known at work. I can't bring myself to do it. I can't do this anymore, though. My heart is constantly racing. The slightest noise sends me into a panic. I get a security camera for my front door and worry a bit less when I hear the door slam from the wind or when the dogs bark at something they hear. I'm becoming comfortable living in fear as much as it's impacting my health. At least I have the pepper spray that Johnny got me. I carry it wherever I go. Chris and I have a shared account we use for work. Maybe I can get an IP address from that. If it matches, that's proof, right? What if I send him an IP tracker? I learned you can place an invisible pixel in an email, and we'll send you the IP address of where it was read. All I have of Chris's is his work email on a Gmail. I test both, on myself first, of course. I can't take the risk of him figuring out I'm onto him. Damn, our work email blocks it, and Gmail reroutes it to their HQ. More hours pass, days and weeks. I've called private investigators. They're impressed I've tried the tactics they already have at their disposal. I feel confident that I'm doing all I can, but more loss that the professionals can't even help. February. One last attempt. It's a week before I have a 7-day out-of-country trip with Chris. It's with a large group this time, but I'll still be working very close, too close with him. I send Chris an email with a shortened link that will track what IP address it was clicked from. I've tested this and it seems to work, but I'm shaking. What if this tips him off? What if he knows I'm onto him and he attacks me while I'm at work? What do I send to him to get him to click? I find a local event that this particular breed of neckbeard would be interested in. Hey Chris, saw this and thought you'd be interested. 5 minutes later he replies. Pure panic. No, excitement maybe. Maybe a mix of both sets in. I don't care what the reply actually is. I check the IP tracker, and it's got a hit. I'm shaking. I can barely type or hold my phone. It's the same IP address as the Facebook and FetLife hack. I've got it. I have the proof I need. It's Chris who's been stalking me via my accounts. My intuition was right, as much as I didn't want it to be confirmed it was him. There's a relief, a weight that's been removed, but then it sets back in. What do I do now? Go to HR? Back to police? We've got the trip coming up, and I need my team there to do the job. I'll wait till after I'm back. It's not that bad, I tell myself. I'm used to living like this now. Johnny thinks I'm insane for considering it, and he's right, I am. I've lost touch with reality. And the situation has me unable to determine what levels of uncomfortable one can be and should live with. A night of debate, and I've made my decision. I can't wait. I'll do it now. I text my boss Jay the next day asking him to meet me for lunch on Sunday. I need to talk to you away from the office. He knows this is not a normal request. We're close at work, but this is just bizarre to him. He tells me that I'm scaring him. I wish I could tell him. The following day we meet for lunch. I'm so nervous I could vomit. This is it. This makes everything real. I tell him everything, and I'm worried he may minimize the issue. Chris is just a kid. He didn't mean anything. I'll talk to him tomorrow. But after I finish speaking, Jay is at a loss for words. We have a plan in place to take this to HR tomorrow, and he's already helping me find someone to replace Chris on our work trip. Again, I'm relieved and nervous at the same time. Shit is finally going down. 7 months of living in fear, and I can finally see it end. Monday. My pepper spray is in my pocket. I picked out a work outfit that would conceal it today. Jay calls me and asks me a question. I don't remember what, but I take it as an invitation to go to his office. Anything to get me away from the person I now know without a doubt has been hacking and stalking me. Jay wasn't expecting me, but he understood. The apartment head is in his office. Jay is about to inform him of my situation. Having my story told by a third party was surreal. I filled in the details where needed and gave them the folder of the evidence I had collected to take to HR. Screenshots, IP addresses, written accounts of the timeline up to this point, the emails from Chris confirming his involvement, and the info from the IP tracker. The day is a haze. I was at HR's office at least twice, saw the police drive through the campus, and had to fight my way with the HR director. He didn't feel I had enough evidence to prove the email I'd sent to Chris's Gmail was actually the Chris that worked there. I dug through my work email. Bam. He emailed my work email from his Gmail account once. Enough evidence for our non-believer. Hours go by and it's almost 3 p.m. If I keep leaving my desk, Chris will know something's up. I can't call HR and ask because he'll hear the conversation. Chris walks over to me. "Oh shit," he says. He's shoving his work phone in my face too close for comfort. But I see that he's got an invite to go to HR for 4 p.m. I'm screaming inside. No one else is around. If he's going to do something to me, now is the time. That notice is the forewarning of being fired. That's how they do it at my job. I manage to look concerned and tell him, "I'll let you know if I get one," insinuating that maybe our team is being let go, not just him. He walks away, but I have no idea where to. I sit at my desk shaking in fear, and I don't know when he'll return. How could HR betray me like this? They know the situation, and they should have warned me before they were about to send it. I could have fled. I could have gone somewhere safe. Mike stops by my desk just to say hi and offer me some leftover catering. I can't eat right now, but in this moment, Mike has offered me more than leftovers. He has no idea what's going on, but he can see in my face that I'm scared. I ask to walk back to his office with him. Chris will never find me there. An hour forever passes by. It's got to be done by now. I know Chris will be escorted back to gather his things, and I don't want to be there for that. I sneak over to Jay's office, and he checks the area for me. Chris is gone. Jay heard from HR, but as per HR rules, I'm not allowed to speak to anyone as to why Chris was fired. What the fuck? Are they serious? And this leaves me so vulnerable. If Chris decides to come back to work, no one would stop him. In fact, they would welcome him with open arms. And I'm left looking like that bitch that fired the nice, quiet kid that week. The IT department took a few extra days to gather Chris's devices. I had time to look through them during that period. The days before our trip was one of so much discovery. Not just what I found on his computer, but what I learned from the people around me. The day after he was fired, I looked into his laptop. IT had no issues getting me into his files. I was Chris's boss, and I needed his work. His pictures folder, a lot of personal stuff, stupid memes, vacation pictures, screenshots of the naked cam girls he chatted with, and me. Some pictures that I had never seen before, some that I had. The pictures I was familiar with were from a cruise I went on months earlier with Johnny. Only these were the ones I had deleted. I had a GoPro set to take the pictures every 10 seconds that hung from my wrist. While walking around, I inadvertently took close-ups of my ass in a swimsuit. Upon importing my vacation pictures, I deleted those from my computer. Were they still on the card? Then there were some pictures from my Google account. Well, it was a picture of a picture on a screen. He got into my Google account too? Why had I never seen that one? Then the other ones I had never seen. Pictures that had been taken around the office and on work trips. Me at my desk. Me bent over setting up gear. A close-up hint of cleavage shot from above. His phone was more of the same. A close-up of my ass while he sat behind me. Me struggling with an AV rack in a closet while in a dress. Video from under a table during a meeting while I'm wearing a skirt. Zoomed in up my skirt photos. Pictures of dates I had written on a post-it. Pictures of my phone settings showing my FetLife account. The nausea sets in again. I remember all these moments in the pictures he'd taken of me. Him nonchalantly on his phone, looking like he's slacking off or answering an email. Little did I know he was filling a spank bank with images of me during work hours and keeping a record of my days off. I got into his browser history, and it was sickening. He researched how to hack someone's text messages. He stalked friends of mine on Facebook, as well as my partner. He got into my Amazon, Gmail, Facebook, FetLife, work email, OkCupid, and even my bank account. He read all the emails of past relationships, looked at the places I visit, and stalked images from events I go to. There was hard evidence now. I took it to the local police near work. They said they couldn't handle it, so I went to the county prosecutor office. Most people wouldn't think of that, but it was suggested by Johnny's friends. They had a computer forensics department and could handle the case. I met with an amazing detective. He took my packet of evidence and listened to the whole story. It's becoming easier to tell the story, especially when I focus on just the facts. At my office, I learned more about Chris, how he slandered me every chance he got to my coworkers. I knew I couldn't tell the people I worked with why Chris was fired, but for my safety I knew I had to tell a few people, just the ones close to me. Once they knew the story, I had heard things from them like, Chris would complain I didn't pay him enough. He lied and said he made half of what he actually did to coworkers. I even fought to get him above normal raises for 2 years. He lied and said I would withhold work from him. They usually responded to him by telling him to talk to my bosses or HR. Obviously he never did. He can't take lies to HR and directors. He spread lies around the office, coercing coworkers to take his side when I wasn't aware there were sides to be had. From these people I learned more about the obsession Chris had with me. He craved to have power over me. He showed them my FetLife profile. He bragged about how compatible we are on OkCupid. He even spoke about being obsessed with my partner. He told them how he tried to catfish me on Reddit. I couldn't blame them though. Chris had laid the groundwork and a bit of gaslighting on them. Told them I was a bad person and Chris was their friend. Chris was really good at playing the victim and never was able to take any self-responsibility. 9 months went by. I followed up with the detective often. It took a while to subpoena his devices from my company, then run forensics. In early September, I got a call from the detective. They had arrested Chris. They showed up early morning at his home where he still lived with his parents, and he admitted to everything. He took the card from the GoPro and recovered the images. He got my passwords once I walked away from my computer. He went through my phone when it was left at my desk. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall. The shock to his family of the type of person he actually is, him cowering while in handcuffs, face to face with what he'd done. No hiding behind a computer screen anymore. I was on vacation when this happened. I remember thinking, not long now till everyone at work will know. He's got a court date set. By then it's public record. I can't help if people know after that point. I didn't have to wait that long though. Later that day, coworkers started sending me a link. Hey, didn't you work with this guy? What a creep. The link was to the county prosecutor's PR page announcing Chris's arrest, mugshot and all. I came back to work and was able to have the truth come out. It was liberating. It took another 9 months for his final court date. I worked with prosecutors during that time to determine how I wanted to proceed. I opted for a probation period instead of going through a trial and fighting for jail time. While Chris deserves the jail time, he wasn't worth my time nor effort, and a trial would offer him a slim chance of getting off scot-free. Also, this way he would get some much-needed counseling. 3 years, no contact with me. 3 years sexual offense counseling. 3 years of checking in with the probation officer. And this way I can at least hope he'll come out understanding that what he did was unacceptable. And fingers crossed, we'll never do it to another living being again. I knew there was no chance of rehab in jail. The hearing. I, of course, was nervous. I didn't want to see Chris, but I knew whatever I was feeling, he was feeling 1,000 times worse. I didn't have to go, but I knew I would regret if I didn't. With my fiancé Johnny at my side, I watched as he got up in front of the judge after he cried in the courtroom and agreed to the full terms of his sentence. His mom glared at me the whole time, as though this was somehow my fault. So that's where he gets it from. What is up, guys? Blue Spooky here, as always. I just wanted to thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far to the end of the video. If you guys like the video, please feel free to leave a like, comment, or subscribe if you feel so inclined. If you have any feedback or suggestions for stories you'd like to see, or anything like that, be sure to leave a comment below, because I always read all of the comments. I have a pretty big update for the channel for you guys. So, as you guys probably know, things have been pretty rough lately for the YouTube horror narrator community. Basically, on YouTube, a bunch of advertisers pulled out, and now everybody's getting way less returns on their views and everything like that. So, I wanted to announce that I finally set up a Patreon account where you guys can donate and contribute to the channel if you like. Of course, it's never necessary. None of my content will remain necessary to be paid for or anything like that. Basically, what Patreon is it's just a tip jar for artists if you feel like supporting them. Of course, if you don't have the money or anything like that, please don't feel like you have to or anything. It's just there for people who want to. So I'll be leaving a link to that in the description of the video, and also probably in a comment with the timestamps for stories for this video. Please give me feedback on what you guys think about that. I'm a little bit nervous about it, but I hope it will go over well, and I hope you guys understand why I'm doing that. If you'd like to contact me, or if you have any stories you'd like to send in or that you'd like me to read, please be sure to take a look in the description of the video below. There will be links to all of my social media, including my Facebook, Twitter, and Gmail accounts. Send me a message on any of those, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. If you do decide to send in a story, please be sure to include in the header of the email, or whatever you choose to send, what the title of the story is, what the theme of the story is, if it has any, and how you would like to be credited in the description of the video the story appears in. If you're curious about the music used at all in this video, the music is always in the description below, in the order which it appears in the video, and I also leave links to the artists themselves in case you like their music and would like to give them support and check out more of their work. And of course, if you have any constructive criticism, please be sure to leave it in the comments below, as I'm always looking for new ways to improve the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.